Like, it's amazing how this conference and this community have grown over the years. Like, this really does feel like a community, like a coming together of neurodivergent people, family members, clinicians, community leaders. And I love that we're here, sort of, kind of at a conference hosted by a research center. The actual content is really a really nice blend of making research more accessible, but at the same time ensuring that topics that matter to all of you are being addressed. And I have to say, I'm so proud to be working with this team. Lori, Sana, and the team have done such a fabulous job of organizing and planning this conference. And it's an amazing trajectory, because I think over the years, one sees the members of the Autism Research Center team becoming research and clinical leaders. And from Maddie kind of doing this beautiful visual representation of the conference to folks including Lori and Jordana and Maddie, who are presenting as part of the program. This is very much a team effort. And at the same time, none of this would be possible without your support and participation and partnership. And I feel like I personally get so much out of this conference every year, just the conversations and just the reality check of kind of what autistic people and their families are facing day to day, and ensuring that we align our research priorities. It is also a really exciting year. As I'll mention, we have kind of greater representation of the broader university, research and academic community who are passionate as well about supporting the well-being of neurodivergent people. They will be presenting as part of today, and we're actually coming together tomorrow to talk about how we can be working together more closely. And the slides are there. And I also want to acknowledge and thank the Stollery Foundation. It is actually a really exciting time in our community. The Stollery Foundation just launched a major campaign, No Bounds, towards the creation of a new Stollery Children's Hospital. And part of that plan is ensuring that it's a welcoming space for all children and families, including those who are neurodivergent. So just to, again, acknowledge the amazing team that I have the good fortune to work with, I think that I have to acknowledge as well that that these incredibly colorful and engaging and creative slides, I had so little to do with them, and sort of like really reflects the incredible talents and ingenuity of everyone on the team. I'm thrilled to be working with this group, which includes research staff, research clinicians, and an amazing group of trainees at all stages, from undergraduate to graduate, and also thinking about the trainees that were here in previous years, and sort of how they've gone on to major leadership roles within our community. And special thanks to Carol Wilson, who is our manager and behind the scenes kind of keeps all of this important work going. So I'll take a few minutes to highlight some of the current initiatives and kind of set the stage for some of the later discussion today. So as Sana mentioned, some of my research and some of our research kind of over the years has kind of focused on learning more about early development in autism, so that we can better support families in making sure that their kids are, that the features of autism are identified early in life, and that kids and people throughout the lifespan can get access to timely and equitable assessment. A lot of this work has centered on working with families who have an autistic child and then a younger sibling who we've monitored from infancy, sort of seeing how they develop and when some of the earliest signs emerge. But I think sort of a huge a huge hurdle in terms of making that research more accessible and ensuring that it's adopted kind of more broadly into the community is this sort of overarching question about whether the early signs of autism in younger siblings are essentially similar or different from signs of autism in other autistic people who don't necessarily have a family history. So we're really excited to have had an opportunity to start a new research project where, rather than limiting this assessments to infants who have a sibling with autism, kind of opening it up to the general community, so that families who have kind of early concerns kind of broadly mapping onto autism-related areas, so like regulation, kind of strong preferences, communication differences, sort of in their infants who are younger than 18 months, we're inviting those families to come to our research center at the Glenrose, and we're going to utilize kind of the similar measures as we've used in our research with siblings, including our interactive observational schedule, to see whether the signs are similar or different, and to see whether the measure kind of performs similarly or different. Because if it is similarly predictive of autism in infants in the broader community, that puts us in a much better position to get to kind of more broadly disseminate that work and ensure that community clinicians can actually utilize our measures, whether parent questionnaire or direct interaction with infants. So this is a study that's open to recruitment. We really welcome families bringing their infants in for us to get to know them and follow them over time. Similar to our other research, is a partnership with the clinical programs at the Glenrose to ensure that infants where there's a concern about autism will have kind of full access to diagnostic services. And we're really kind of optimistic that if we can demonstrate that our measures are informative, for infants who don't have a family history, that'll allow us to share these measures and ensure that that kids are identified in as timely a way as possible. As another extension of that, in partnership with some collaborators in the US, we're interested to see whether what we've learned from working with younger siblings might apply within the extended family. And in particular, for siblings of autistic people who have reached the stage of their life where they're starting their own families, to have an opportunity, knowing that autism can run in the families. The rates of autism, sort of as one moves through the family tree, are not quite as high sort of in siblings versus nieces and nephews versus cousins. But because there may be higher rates, we're through this research, we're inviting families, it's essentially parents who have a niece or a nephew who's autistic. So essentially who've grown up, kind of being the sibling of an autistic person, and now are having their own children. We're inviting them so that we can kind of monitor their early development, provide reassurance, and again, sort of see whether we can identify signs sort of in that small number of children that may be at higher likelihood. This has been a project that we're really keen to kind of connect with families on. It's a little less straightforward than inviting parents who have an autistic child, because of that sort of separation of one extra generation, that it's actually the parents who have a sibling and now are having their own children, so aren't necessarily connected to the clinical system the same way. But we're really excited to work with those families and provide that support. At the other end of the continuum, we've been following younger siblings of autistic kids for the past 25 years. It's remarkable that those infants that we followed at that time are now young adults. I've been in Edmonton now for about 20 years. We were a little later. Oh, it keeps jumping ahead. No, maybe that's okay. Sorry, maybe that's me. So we're really interested in reconnecting with those families who gave us the honor of following their younger kids through infancy, through childhood and adolescence, and now actually checking in to see how those young folks are doing. But at the same time, we realize that it's not really our place as a research team to define that research agenda. We really wanted to understand what are the priorities of those individuals that grew up with an autistic sibling, their parents, and the autistic individuals themselves, in terms of understanding what are the relevant questions to assess, kind of what are those siblings experiencing, how might things be similar or different related to whether they also have an autistic diagnosis versus if they're sort of on that broad continuum of neurodivergence, or just kind of young people who are having to navigate the challenges of adult life. With under Lori and Maddie and others' leadership, there have been some initial conversations kind of with autistic individuals, their siblings and parents, to kind of start to map out what their priorities are. Why does that keep jumping ahead? Sorry. I'm sorry. There we go. With Maddie's obvious visual flair, she's provided a summary of some of the findings, some of which are fairly kind of will resonate universally for people navigating the transition to adulthood, and others in terms of kind of complex dynamics around sort of growing independence, facing relationships, facing the workplace. We're really excited to work with those families to start to define the research questions and then reach out to the broader group of families and individuals who previously participated in our sibling research. And I'm excited that Maddie and her brother will be kind of presenting on themes that sort of broadly relate to this project later today. Um, the PARC study, or Pediatric Autism Research Cohort, is a national study of young autistic children, sort of relatively recently diagnosed, with the focus on sort of understanding sort of their journey and the factors sort of within themselves, the family, and within the community that kind of shape the degree to which they're participating, thriving, and achieving their developmental milestones. We're excited to have a chance to sort of work with families whose children are being assessed, not only at the Glenrose, but within our broader community. This is a study where the children are largely being, where the study measures are largely being collected online. So there's flexibility for families in terms of not having to come into the center, and an opportunity to work with families across the province. So this is work that Emma Williams is coordinating along with Sana. And if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to them. Okay. The next study is a little bit different. It's kind of more at the intersection of kind of research and clinical practice, and something that really excites us. I think sort of one of the things that we all struggle with in Edmonton and beyond is kind of access to assessment services in childhood and beyond. And I think when I started with this team working in sibling research years ago, I think I kind of naively thought that if we could just better describe the early features of autism, then autistic kids would get identified and diagnosed earlier. But we all know that that's not the case. And the sobering reality is that the average age of diagnosis has not really budged all that much in the past 20 years. And I think it won't surprise any of you to know that the main bottleneck is not necessarily that community clinicians are not aware of early signs, but that there's kind of limited capacity within specialty clinics to see the growing number of individuals that need to be assessed. That's so true in the preschool years, and it's even more true in the school age years. And the adult system is so under-resourced, and there's so many autistic adults who come to their own identity, who are faced with the option of immeasurable wait lists through the public system or having to pay out of pocket. The truth is that people like developmental pediatricians and psychiatrists are not being trained at the rate to meet this need. The way forward really is to work with our community colleagues and recognize that there's a continuum of need related to assessment, and that community clinicians like pediatricians, family physicians, nurse practitioners, kind of have the ability, particularly those who are kind of passionate and willing to take on an advanced practice role, to be very significant participants in providing diagnostic assessments. This kind of respects the integrity of our publicly funded health system and potentially allows individuals to access diagnostic assessment kind of closer to home. Because another challenge, of course, is that the specialty centers tend to be in the large cities and very hard to access through travel or just kind of getting through long wait lists and eligibility criteria. So we're fortunate to have some funding from an organization called One Child, Every Child, a large kind of research grant that's hosted by the University of Calgary to actually evaluate our training program. To date, we've trained about 35 community clinicians, including another cohort of 12 that just completed their training a couple months ago. This is work that Emma, again, is coordinating and leading. We're in the process of planning more training later in June. In general, we're really interested in connecting with community professionals who are interested in taking on an advanced practice role in this area. as I mentioned, I'm really excited about sort of a unique addition to this year's conference. So tomorrow, we're going to be getting together with the broader kind of community of researchers, university faculty, and trainees who are really passionate and committed to research that is dedicated to better understanding and improving the lives of neurodivergent individuals and their families. I'm really thrilled that as sort of an extra component of this year's conference that we're going to have a panel of some of those excellent researchers, including Dr. Brice Chouinard, Dr. Sandeep Gupta, Dr. Martin Munz, and Dr. Francois Bolduc. It really emphasizes that although we're proud of the work that we do at the Research Center at the Glenrose, we are part of a much broader community. And over the past several years, this community has really grown in numbers and diversity and talent. And there's huge potential for Edmonton to really become a leading interdisciplinary center for autism research. And then my final slide is just related to the work that we're doing in terms of supporting community professionals and taking on an advanced practice role and evaluating the work in terms of sort of their, how they progress in terms of their assessment skills and also the experience of families who are seen in those environments. As part of the training, we realized that we need more kind of live assessments to be able to share with them. Like, it's one thing to talk about the questions we would ask or theoretically what we would do. It's much more powerful, of course, if we can actually show assessments. I mean, it's an online training program at this point, so their hands-on experience kind of follows the initial didactic training. But even so, right now we have like 2 amazing videos, but we want to expand our library because we recognize the diversity of autism, we recognize the diversity of families and family contexts, and we want to give those clinicians a broader exposure. In order to do that, we're inviting families whose children have already been diagnosed with autism, who would be comfortable with having a videotaped assessment, sort of initially an interactive assessment with the option of having kind of an interview as well about the features of autism. And the purpose of videotaping those assessments would be to incorporate them into the training so that those clinicians kind of have a broader exposure and to kind of see the broader continuum of autism. So if as a family member, you'd be interested in participating and have a child in the preschool years who's been diagnosed with autism, or if you're a service provider who knows of families that may be comfortable kind of participating in this way, these would be videos that would not be publicly shared, but rather just shared during the training. We would love to hear from you. And again, Emma is the point person for that work. So again, thank you all being here. Kind of congratulations to Lori and Sana and the entire Autism Research Center team for planning and putting on such a wonderful conference. Thanks in advance to the presenters and looking forward to spending the day with you.